Heartstopper is really, really good. Now I want to start by saying I have not read the webcomics the series is based on, so I am just going on what I see, and I see a pretty great show here. My friend Pixel actually put this show on my radar, and I'm glad they did, because I definitely wouldn't have tried it on my own. You see, I find it hard to watch a story that's just romance, things like rom-coms and stuff like that. It's just a personal thing, but it's really easy for me to suffer from secondhand embarrassment, especially with young adult and teen romance. I'm not calling shows that get this reaction on me bad at all, but it's just hard for me to stick to a romance if the character interactions are just so awkward. You could probably tell my surprise then when I didn't have the reaction once in the entire show. The pacing of the show is really tight, and it's designed in a way that you're not going to be really feeling the episodes as they run through you. Sometimes in a movie or a show, you can really tell when characters are just fucking around for time, but the show isn't like that. You basically go from point to point all the way to the end, but it doesn't feel like it's flowcharting at all. The show was actually written by Alex Oseman, the same person who wrote the comic too, and even if you don't know that, you can tell from the moment it starts that the people behind the show know their shit. It feels like all the fat was trimmed, and everything that's left is either the main story or side stories that all tie back into the main story and its themes. Yeah, there's some school and life drama involved too, but it's basically an 8-episode build-up to Charlie and Nick getting together, and I like that. It's really smart, and it feels like you're actually being told a story by someone who respects your time and your intelligence. The show and its marketing isn't being coy about the ending, so instead of spending hours throwing a will they, won't they at you, the showrunner takes time to emphasize the relationship as it develops, and I think we could use more stories like that. Because the story isn't so heavily focused on if they'll even be together in the end, it can use its time to tell a really compelling story. There's surprisingly a lot of tension in this show, and while what happens is pretty grounded, that's exactly what I like about it. This show doesn't shy away from real homophobia, but also the way people act in school settings. Heartstopper shows legitimate prejudice and bigotry that happens in school environments, and there's even a few slurs thrown around, but it's not reveling in it the way that other shows and movies have. Heartstopper just shows that these are things that exist in real life, the impacts they have on people, and why they're wrong. You know, there's this really great moment with Nick that I want to focus on because it proves exactly what I'm saying. See, Nick, who is bi, is in the closet through most of the show, and this isn't for no reason either. His entire arc is basically a condensed version of what a lot of baby gays experience. He realizes that something is different about him, he starts looking into it. Shout out to that quiz, by the way. I definitely took that as a kid, and I probably cried over it. And he comes to terms with his sexuality. It's about realizing that while you may not be straight, that's okay. That you're still worthy of love from friends, from family, from a partner too. It's a great arc, but it's also an arc about fear. Sure, he's happy being able to be free with Charlie, but there's that lingering anxiety there too. He's afraid of how his sexuality and relationship will impact his prospects in rugby, with his family, and really everything around him. He feels like he has to pretend to be one of the boys or things are just gonna fall apart for him, which makes it pay off so well when he decides that enough is enough and even gets into a scuffle with his jock friend. You know, that's one of the more obvious examples, but there's stories like this across the entire show. Charlie regularly eats in a teacher's room because he gets picked on for who he is. There's a lesbian couple that doesn't hide what they are, but fears making it official on social media. Oh, even Charlie's friend group has drama about this. Ella's worried about being shunned and alienated in school and life for being a trans girl in the school system, something that is a legitimate concern with trans students, especially trans students of color face. Tao basically spends this entire season causing problems on purpose because he's afraid of being left behind if things keep changing. It's great. With Ella having to move to an all-girls school after transitioning, and Charlie's dynamic with him changing after meeting Nick, he's scared of being left alone. I love when side stories and subplots harken back to the themes of the overall show like this. It's a personal favorite writing thing of mine, and Heartstopper ties everything into the themes of the main show with a neat bow. The casting really sells the show too. I love the main group as a whole. They all kind of act like those friends you'd remember from high school. You know, Nick and Charlie are basically a golden retriever of a relationship. Seeing them hanging out, both as friends and boyfriends, it just puts a smile on your face seeing them be happy. You know, Tao is exactly the kind of kid I had in media team, and he's just that perfect asshole friend in the group that can't stand it when things change. Ella's fantastic too. She's kind of like the mom of your friend group that tends to have a level head. Apparently Yasmin, the person who plays her, is going to be in the new Doctor Who run too, and I'm really excited because she was straight up one of the best people in the show. It's honestly just so great seeing more trans representation, both through characters and the actors portraying them. As of recording, season 2 is not out yet, but please do yourself a favor and watch this. I really don't care if you like romance or not. It's absolutely worth your time. And each episode is barely a half an hour, so it's a pretty easy watch compared to other miniseries. Straight up, this show gets a 10 out of 10. I am biased.